In this clip, a woman named Kelsey recounts a chilling encounter that took place only days after a devastating loss. She also shares what she believes could have caused it. For background, Kelsey's grandfather was a strong believer in spirits and the afterlife. He often told her that if he ever passed on, he'd find a way to prove he was still near. Sadly, he died on November 12, 2023. Just 2 days later, Kelsey woke up to something unsettling.
See? What the What the Nobody's down here.
The lights downstairs began to flicker without explanation. Thinking one of her children was awake and playing, she went to check. But as soon as she reached the middle of the staircase, the lights shut off completely and didn't come back on. Seeing nothing unusual, she returned to bed, only for it to happen again minutes later. This time she woke her husband, and together they went to investigate. Once more, the moment they reached the halfway point of the stairs, the lights went dark and never turned back on. Here's the strange part. Since that night, the flickering has never happened again. Now, Kelsey is left questioning whether it was faulty wiring, a strange coincidence, or the very sign her grandfather promised to send from beyond. Some believe it was his gentle way of letting her know he's still present. Others are skeptical, suggesting it may not have been him at all, but perhaps something entirely different. As with many of these cases, the final judgment is yours to make. Dre and his friend were spending a quiet evening together when strange noises began echoing from the attic above. At first, they brushed it off as the wind or the house settling, but the sounds grew louder and harder to ignore. After a moment of hesitation, they decided to check it out. The moment they climbed into the attic, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over them. The air felt heavy, and it was as if unseen eyes were following their every move. Something about the space was undeniably wrong.
Alright, remember, I gotta turn this thing on here. Recorder's on.
Alright, we got the cripple.
Yeah, I'm the cripple. I'm the EVP director.
The EVP specialist. And, let's see if I can do this. Got myself, Dre. And we're up here because we heard some noises earlier. And we're trying to figure out if we can catch a little bit more. Or try to piss this thing off enough to let us know that it's here.
I heard you up here last night. Make a noise. I kept on hearing stuff in the back of the attic on the back there on the right, like there was something hiding back there. I got it on the recorder, like all these little bangs and scratching noises. And just for the record, there's no wildlife up here. What's your name? Stop hiding and show yourself.
Give us a sign. What the hell was that?
Did you see something?
We just got something on video.
What was it?
Oh my gosh, what was that? Hang on, we gotta stop this.
What did it look like?
When the camera panned across the far end of the attic, it caught a sudden, unmistakable movement in the shadows. No one else was in the house, and there was nowhere to hide. The chilling footage convinced them they had come face to face with real paranormal activity, a ghostly presence concealed within the darkness of the attic. A Russian urban explorer with a deep fascination for abandoned sites made a discovery that shook him to his core. While journeying miles into the remote Russian wilderness, he stumbled across what seemed to be an old, forgotten complex. The place was eerily isolated, hours away from the nearest settlement, and swallowed by endless forest. Crumbling concrete walls and rusting gates hinted that the site had been deserted for decades. Most people would have turned back immediately, but the explorer, known as Universe of Mems, felt an irresistible urge to investigate. With only his phone camera in hand, he stepped inside to document the ruins. What he recorded, however, sent him fleeing in terror. As he neared one particular room, he stopped dead in his tracks.
Прикольно, ребята, давно не было у меня таких приключений. Типа сталка. Здесь, ребята, жутковато. Потому что здесь, блин, куча этих волков, зверей всяких. Подходим, идем дальше. Смотреть, что, как. Вот, ребята, еще такой вот бункер. Фу, территория очень большая. Здесь будет очень тяжело найти эти шахты. Так. Пошли. А вот здесь уже стрёмненько, ребята. Какие-то комнаты. Что это было? Ребята! Валим! Фу, блин!
A shadowy figure appeared without warning, and within seconds he was running for his life. Later, he dug into the facility's history and uncovered unsettling stories. Locals whispered that it had been abandoned after tragic events, leaving behind restless spirits. What Universe of Mems may have seen that day could have been the guardian of those desolate ruins, still keeping its secrets buried deep within the Russian forest. But the question lingers: was it truly the spirit of someone tied to the site's grim history, or something far more sinister hidden within the wilderness? Paranormal investigator Raga Paranormal took on a dare to explore a hospital notorious for terrifying hauntings, but he never imagined one of those spirits would follow him home. The abandoned building looked like a scene from a nightmare: crumbling walls, rotting corridors, and rumors that it was more a gateway to the afterlife than a medical facility. Raga walked those hallways with a camera in hand, and at first, found nothing to prove the legends. Frustrated, he packed up and left, unaware that the true nightmare had only just begun. From that night on, his home became the epicenter of relentless paranormal activity.
¿Qué quieren que vea? ¿Siguen aquí? Hola.
Investigators refer to this as an attachment, a spirit or entity that latches onto a person instead of remaining tied to a place. It's the last kind of souvenir any ghost hunter wants. But this presence wasn't content to haunt only his living room. It followed him everywhere, even appearing during his daily commute.
La puerta está moviendo. Acaban de golpear la silla a mi derecha. Ahí. ¿Qué les dije? Uy, hijo de puta.
The incidents quickly turned into a terrifying cat and mouse game. A door would slowly creak open and then slam shut with brutal force. Still, it wasn't the door that drove him to flee. It was the low, guttural growl that came from beyond it. A noise so deep and menacing it didn't resemble any human voice.
Uy, hijo de puta.
Paranormal experts distinguish between human spirits and entities that were never human. Soft whispers and faint voices might point to a lost soul, but a growl like the one Raga heard usually suggests something darker and openly hostile. Despite the danger, he continued trying to make contact, desperate to understand what was tormenting him.
Si hay algún alma que necesita luz, que esté aquí. Eso no me lo esperaba para nada.
One night, a jug of silverware toppled and scattered across the floor. When he turned, a small box had inexplicably moved from one cabinet to another, ending up in a spot that seemed impossible to stage. Put together the pieces, and a chilling pattern emerges. An entity hitched itself to him after the hospital visit, and its behavior escalated, slamming doors, shifting objects, and emitting inhuman growls. So what was it? The restless spirit of a former patient trapped within the hospital's walls, or something far worse, an inhuman predator that Raga accidentally provoked, and which now treats his life like a hunting ground? Share your theories. This haunting is anything but ordinary. Late one night in Mexico, a family was winding down when they spotted something strange drifting past their bedroom window. It appeared to be a pale, cloak-like figure gliding silently along the street. Uneasy but curious, the father grabbed his phone and headed downstairs, determined to capture the mysterious presence moving near their home.
Ya, loco, graba. Míralo ahí, loco, míralo ahí. ¿Y qué es eso que está haciendo? Yo te dije, loco, ese parece a Martín, loco, el que murió. Cierra la puerta. Cierra la puerta. Llama a papi. Papi, ven que aquí hay una cosa rara, yo no sé qué es. Mira, llámalo, ve. Cierra la puerta. Ay, Dios mío. Mira. Ay, Dios. Llama a papi.
On the recording, a ghostly white form can be seen twisting and hovering in the darkness. It looked like a floating sheet, but its movements were unnatural, gliding smoothly across the road, as if controlled by something unseen rather than carried by the wind. Within seconds, it slipped into the shadows near a neighboring house and disappeared completely. The footage left the family deeply unsettled, unsure if they had just witnessed a carefully staged prank or a genuine paranormal encounter. Since then, neighbors have been on alert, but the mystery of what passed through that street remains unsolved.